Afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Kelly, for that introduction and for the invitation to share my story at today's AGM for Big Brothers Big Sisters of Eastern Newfoundland. The invitation for today's event at the Ramada offered guests the opportunity to come see how your support and involvement has helped change the lives of kids in our community, and I'm happy and grateful to stand here as living proof. I'm well past the age of your average little, but let me share a few small glimpses into what my match experience was like, and hopefully shed light on the tremendous ripple effect that a big can have on a young person and how that can affect their future. My entire childhood was spent as the only child of a single mom. I was fairly physically inactive as a kid. We lived in housing and there were plenty of other kids, but it took encouragement to get me outside and off my duff. That's not to say that I was couch-bound the majority of my young life. I played softball, tag, and Red Rover with the neighborhood kids. I spent my summers in our hometown of Swift Current, where days were filled with swimming, fishing, boating, and fearless exploratory hikes through the woods. Those activities were often solitary though, but they sometimes involved my cousins. I went right through beavers, cubs, scouts, and enjoyed camping, making fires, and orienteering. I suspect part of my mom's motivation to get me involved with scouts had to do with ensuring that I socialized with kids my own age more often, but it also created a lot of great memories, and I developed skills I otherwise wouldn't have had. Still though, I was a big kid. At my heaviest, I was almost 280 pounds. A lot of weight for any person to carry, but certainly so for a young teen. I could have done with more regular and, to my chagrin, intense exercise. Enter Big Brothers, Big Sisters. Mom and I discussed in some detail what being matched with a big meant and what activities were possible, how it worked, and the ways she anticipated it might be helpful. I listened and offered my thoughts, and we agreed to apply for a match. The organization sent a rep to our house to go over the program and talk about candidates. It wasn't long before a match was made and I met my first big brother. Our initial match turned out to be less than ideal. The big was busy, and after a couple of hangouts and missed meetups, it was dissolved. The experience had not deterred us though, so the office established a new match, and that's when I met John Duty. Having a regular male role model would give me the space to ask questions and learn from someone who likely shared the same curiosities and experiences when they were growing up. It wasn't that my mom couldn't have answered certain questions or that she was ill-equipped on her own. I'm all for families of different types, 2 dads, 2 moms, or just one of either. They're all equal to the traditional picture in my eyes. My mom just recognized that an additional relationship would probably be helpful and wanted what was best. John was a young professional in his 20s and drove a slick red early 90s Toyota Celica. I'll never forget the first day it pulled up. I was obviously cautious and nervous, but loved the car. Its headlights flipped up, it had bucket seats, a rear spoiler. He often had Tears for Fears, Seeds of Love, and Billy Joel's River of Dreams on in the car. John was an office kind of guy, working hard to build a career in government, something that I was already interested in. He was involved in basketball leagues and played regularly. He also had his own place and shared with a few roommates over the years that I had met and befriended. We connected on weekends, sometimes weekday evenings, and our outings regularly consisted of me watching his team play basketball, where I learned sports lingo and had fun cheering him on. John also took me to the library, a place I hadn't frequented since I was young, visiting the children's library at the Arts and Culture Center with my mom. He showed me the QE2 library for the first time, and we'd returned to it many times thereafter. He'd go through different newspapers on big sticks while I explored the stacks. When we popped by his house on Saturdays, he sometimes made us brunch before we consulted the paper to pick a movie to go see. Eventually, he saw that my interest in basketball was growing, and he encouraged me to give it a try myself. He had become a coach with Youth Basketball Canada, so the opportunity was right in front of me. I tried, and I liked it. Being part of a team sport was eye-opening and not something I ever expected to find myself doing. We had gray-green t-shirts, and I still have mine. We called ourselves Jazz after Utah Jazz. I was number 7 and often played defense. John's holiday gifts started to reflect our shared interest in basketball. He gave me a mini basketball tabletop game, a commemorative Toronto Raptors book, and a San Jose Sharks jersey over the years. I know that last one's hockey, but that's the sport that I've taken the highest interest in as an adult, except now my team is the Penguins. John also traveled a fair amount for his work, which took him to China and Japan, among other destinations. That inspired such curiosity for me, and I was always keenly interested to hear about it after he returned. A pair of Chinese Baoding balls in a silk box still sits proudly in the living room. A stone lizard carving from Mexico by the front door, and I still have a beautiful visual planner that he brought home from Japan, all trappings of his travels. I was honored when he took me across the island to meet his folks some years into the match. It was an exciting cross-island drive in that Celica. It was likely the first time I went from one end of the island to the other. My involvement with Big Brothers Big Sisters also led to other opportunities as well, including being chosen for a trip to Keon, Quebec to stay at the Tim Hortons camp in 1997. I was also invited to speak as a little at the 2001 Big Brothers Big Sisters Celebrity Secret Show at the Old Memorial Stadium to share my match story. We had also shared many memorable and important conversations. John helped me learn about taking care of myself in a friendly, casual way as I got older, like when it came time to shave or preemptively suggesting that deodorant is your friend. I also remember him telling me, "Don't drag your feet," one day, and I'm sure the dragging of my boots irked him, but that lone comment forever made me conscious of how I walked, and I'd suggest now that it made me walk with more confidence. I suppose that applies to my experience figuratively as well. All of these things that John brought to my youth, independently of one another, seem insignificant. But when you're older and look back at these moments and actions as a collection, only then do you realize their full true effect. I gained a new and deeper appreciation for just going to the library and spending a few quiet hours just for something to do. Too few people seem to do that these days, so I'm thankful that he helped spur on an interest in libraries for me, and that perhaps indirectly strengthened my interest in writing too. Now my own books are in that library. I'd likely never have gotten as into cars or hockey were it not for him. I wouldn't enjoy certain recording artists as much as I do now were it not for his influence. He gave me that cliche moment when it was time to start shaving. He made me healthier. He showed me ability I never thought I had, and he inspired certainty and confidence. The point here is that our youth are so impressionable. Things John said and did had a much, much deeper impact on my development as a person than he probably ever realized. The interactions we have with youth are precious and meaningful and should be treated with respect. Know the role that you play when you become an adult in a young person's life and seize the opportunity to guide and develop their skills, perspective, and potential. I'm proud of the man that I've become and continue to grow into being. I'm proud that because of the role models that I've had in my life, from John as my big to family members that I look up to, that I have a desire to give back and help make our community, province, and country a better place. One way I'm doing that is through the recently launched Family Legacy Project. For the last year and a half, I've led the charge with my family to establish the Jamieson Family Memorial Scholarship. We recently announced the initiative earlier this month, and now the campaign is on to raise enough to ensure that we can continue to disperse the $1,500 scholarship in perpetuity. You can visit jamiesonfamilyscholarship.ca to learn more about it, or find me on Twitter at JJMoxie. So that's just a glimpse into my story, and I think demonstrates what today's AGM invitation said quite well. Never underestimate the impact your support and involvement with organizations like Big Brothers Big Sisters of Eastern Newfoundland has when it comes to changing lives in our community. Thank you to the organization, and thank you to John for guiding me through those formative years, and for being one of the many people in the figurative village that it takes to raise a child.